Before we begin, I think you should be told about the competency that we are addressing today. The competency, just a minute, I'll tell you. So the competency that is being addressed today is mechanism of action, types, doses, side effects, indications and contraindications of drugs used for the treatment of arrhythmia. And this we shall be covering by means of lecture, and later you will be having a small group discussion also. So I think last week you had a class test. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So how did you submit your answers?
Ma'am, we had scanned the copies and then sent it to our respective teachers in the form of a PDF on mail.
Okay, okay, okay. So could you finish on time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the topic was, I think, auto ANS, or it was autocoids. What was the topic? Yes. What were the topics covered during the test? Yes.
Blood,
Yes.
blood.
Acha, it was only blood. So, since we are coming to the end of CVS, I think one more lecture is left. So maybe you will be having a CVS test also in the next week. I think we'll be covering finishing off with CVS. So next to next week, you can expect CVS test. It's not scheduled yet, but maybe in the month of June. So let us begin with anti-arrhythmic drugs. Uh, if your slides are not visible, or if my voice is not audible, just let me know then and there. Otherwise, I request all of you to be on mute. Oh. Now, all of you are aware of the conduction system of the heart, that there are certain specialized fibers which propagate the electrical impulses. So the impulse originates from the pacemaker. Pacemaker of the heart is the sinoatrial node. And from there, the impulse reaches the atrioventricular node or the AV node. And from the AV node, the impulse reaches the bundle of His. And from there are two branches, right bundle branch block and right bundle branch and the left bundle branch. And thereafter, these branches, they break up into fibers. So this is the conduction system of the heart. And if there is obstruction or any kind of resistance in this conduction pathway, then that is a heart block. It can be a partial heart block or complete heart block. So you have to remember this, that there are certain areas where the impulse can originate, that those regions are called the pacemakers. So pacemakers can be the SA node, the AV node, the bundle of His, the Purkinje. They can be the pacemakers because they are capable. Those cells are capable of spontaneous depolarization and generating their own action potential, from where the action potential spreads to the other parts. But the most dominant pacemaker of all these is the sinoatrial node, SA node. So when we say the pacemaker, we mean the SA node. So just refreshing your knowledge of physiology, the myocardial cells, they maintain a gradient, a transmembrane ion gradient, and this gradient is maintained by the movement of three ions, the sodium, calcium and potassium. So when the cardiac cell is in the resting membrane potential, then the resting membrane potential, that is minus 85 millivolts. So when there is initiation of impulse, there is depolarization and rapid influx of sodium ions. You know that when there is depolarization, it means a rapid influx of sodium ions. Otherwise, because of the action of the sodium potassium pump, sodium is pumped out of the cell and potassium is pumped in. So this is what is the normal condition. But when the depolarization starts, then there is rapid influx of sodium. Now this graph is very, very important, and you should understand this graph to understand the basic concept of arrhythmias. Because if you understand this graph, understanding the rest becomes a cakewalk. So you see that when the depolarization starts, there is rapid influx of sodium ions. So as a result, the potential is shifted towards zero. So there is a steep rise from minus 85 or 90 to zero, and it overshoots zero, reaches till minus 20. Okay, thereafter what happens is there is entry of potassium. The entry of potassium, is in the opposite direction. So there is, instead of depolarization, there occurs a small phase of hyperpolarization, which results in this notch. This is called the notch 1. This was the phase 0, then this is the phase 1. Then what happens is, in phase 2, there is opening of the calcium channels. So the outward movement, or rather I'll say the inward movement of the potassium channels is balanced by the movement of the calcium channels, because of there a calcium channel opening takes place. So because the potential change caused by the potassium entry is then balanced by the calcium. You see, in this region there is entry of potassium and there is exit of calcium. So there is a phase where there is balance. So this phase is represented as a plateau. Then finally what happens in phase 3 is there is opening of the potassium channels, and then repolarization takes place. The sodium potassium pump becomes active, and finally repolarization takes place, pumping out sodium and pumping in potassium. And in phase 4, there is again spontaneous depolarization. Remember, spontaneous depolarization is always the origin when the action potential begins in a particular cell. So the action potential has moved forward into the adjoining tissue, adjoining cell, wherein it has caused a spontaneous depolarization. In that cell, again, these processes will take place. Phase 0, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. So you see that this is actually an interplay of three ions. So when I say phase 0, so you understand, you have to keep in mind that phase 0 means that this phase of rapid depolarization. When I say that drug X is acting on phase 2, so you should know that it is acting on this phase wherein the potassium and the calcium is balanced. When I say phase 1, that means only movement of potassium channels are okay, fine. And when I say phase 3 is affected, then you know that the repolarization process is affected. So it is this graph which is on the x-axis there is the transmembrane potential, and on the y-axis, and on the x-axis it is time. So this is plotted, and it is very important for you to understand. Now you know that the heart beats in normal sinus rhythm, and this is determined by the SA node or the pacemaker of the heart. So since in most of the cases the rhythm originates from the SA node, so that is why it is called the sinus rhythm. But you have to remember that there are other pacemakers as well. There are other cells as well which are capable of spontaneous depolarizations, like the AV node, the bundle of His, and the Purkinje fibers. So since the depolarization rate in the SA node is 60 to 100, so the normal sinus rate is the same, 60 to 100 beats per minute. So these we have already discussed that the conducting system consists of the SA node, AV node, and bundle of His, Purkinje fibers. And this conduction process, it takes time. So from one pacemaker to the other, there is always a time that is involved. So when there is an obstruction in the pathway, this time, why we are discussing this is that this time gets prolonged. So this specialized conducting system of the heart, it permits the rapid organized depolarization of the ventricular myocytes, because if this organized depolarization will take place, only then there will be ventricular systole, as a result of which ventricular contraction will take place, and the heart will be able to eject blood into the systemic circulation. Now let us discuss each phase. I have explained to you the graph. Now let me discuss with you each phase one by one. The phase 4, in the phase 4, the action potential, it depolarizes to the threshold, that is -70. Then there is rapid depolarization taking place at the phase 0, which is caused by the transient opening of the fast sodium channels. Because of this transient opening of the sodium channel, sodium, which was originally concentrated outside and potassium inside, there is a fast entry of sodium inside, and the action potential, it moves towards the baseline 0 because of this inward directed depolarizing sodium currents, and hence the action potential is generated. Then is the phase 1. It is after the phase 0, there occurs opening of potassium channels. Now potassium channels, remember, potassium was concentrated more inside. So when there is transient outward hyperpolarizing potassium current, then the action potential dips in the opposite direction. Initially it was going towards 0 and overshooting to to plus 20. Then because of this opening of the potassium channels in the opposite direction, the action potential then comes down. Thereafter, very soon, but this period is very brief, so this notch is very small, that is, it takes less time. Then there is an increase, there is opening of the slow calcium channels. Okay, slow calcium channels. So initially the effect of potassium was more because the calcium channels were opening very slow, but soon the movement of the calcium channel is nullifying, or you can say is neutralizing the effect of the hyperpolarization of the potassium current. So this action or this effect is reflected in a plateau. So the plateau phase, it prolongs the action potential duration, because see the time in the plateau phase is quite long. Then comes the repolarization phase, which is the phase 3. What happens is the potassium channels which had opened here, then those potassium channels become predominant in this region, and the calcium channels, they are not able to like make up for or neutralize the movement of the potassium. So the potassium channels open, the calcium channels are inactivated, and this is reflected as repolarization phase, because here the sodium potassium pump becomes active again. Sodium is pumped out and potassium is pumped in. So because of this entry of potassium inside, this repolarization takes place. So this concept you have to keep in mind, because there will be, now since we will discuss drugs, you will hear that that there are drugs which affect the phase 0, there are drugs which affect the phase 3 only. So you know, if you know these phases, you know what we are talking about. Now just to tell you the concept of refractory period. Once an action potential is initiated, there is a phase that a new action potential cannot be initiated. Okay, so see, this picture shows that there is a time between the beginning of the phase 0 and phase 3. So in between, during that time period, if there is a new action potential, that a new action potential cannot be generated in the same cell. So the stimulation, even if that cell is stimulated by adjacent cells by depolarization, it is not able to generate a new action potential. So this is in fact a protective mechanisms in order to maintain a regular sinus rhythm, कि जब तक उस सेल में ये phases चल रहे हैं 0, 1, 2, तब तक वो दूसरा स्टिमुलस से नहीं डिपोलराइज होता. नहीं तो what would have happened, there would have been chaos. 0, 1, 2, 3 is going on, again 0 starts, maybe when the cell is in phase 2 or 3, then again phase 1 starts because of some impulse in the adjacent cells. So there is a refractory period. So this is called the refractory period, when action potential cannot be initiated. Now I'll just briefly like show you some pictures wherein you will know how the action potential changes in the different pacemakers, like SA node. Now, this was this picture, which I don't know. Uh, are you able to see this graph again?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I have gone back a few slides. Yes. So this is the ideal picture. Okay. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But in different pacemakers, this graph can be changed according to the nature of the cell. Like it happens in the SA node. SA node, the picture is like this. Because in the SA node, there are uh, some characteristic channels, inward sodium channels, which they are responsible for causing funny currents. They are called. So the graph in the SA node will be somewhere like this. You see the phase 4 is where the spontaneous depolarization is taking place. The phase 0 is slightly different. There is no phase 1 and 2. You see, then directly there begins phase 3, and again depolarization, again the new action potential being generated. So this is how SA node is able to uh, undergo spontaneous depolarization at a particular rate, and this is how the sinus rhythm is maintained. Now it should be you can notice that at minus 50, the T-type calcium channels open. That is, the calcium channels are opening at this region, and at minus 40 the L-type calcium channels open. Okay, so you see that this graph is slightly different in SA node. See, I am just explaining this. What is important for your exam point of view is that original graph which I showed you, and it is also important for you to understand the concept of arrhythmia. This graph which I am showing now regarding SA node, this is only for your understanding. This will not be asked in the exam. This is just to understand, make you understand the peculiarities of the SA node. So you see what happens in the SA node. This phase 0 is the phase of depolarization, but this phase here, here calcium channels are also very important here. Normally it was only due to the movement of sodium ions, but in SA node it is primarily caused by the calcium conductance through the L-type calcium channels, and the movement of calcium through these channels is very slow. So the rate of depolarization, that is the phase 0 slope, is slower, you see, than the other cardiac cells. Okay, and so in this SA node, the phase 3, uh, during the phase 3 there occurs repolarization, same as other cells, wherein there is the outward hyperpolarizing potassium currents, and at the same time the L-type calcium channels close, the calcium channels which were active during the 0 phase. Okay, which is followed by this. So this inward depolarizing calcium currents slowly diminish, causing repolarization. So the the impulse at the SA node is very much affected by vagus. Okay, there is, we say, the effect of vagus. So because with the effect of vagus, see the this graph, it bends to the right. The slope, the steep slope of phase 0 becomes less steeper under the effect of vagus. Okay. Now, I will not go into the details of each and every pacemaker. So now I'll come to the concept of arrhythmia. You see, when we talk of arrhythmia, whenever there is some abnormality in the rhythm, that is arrhythmia. So, arrhythmia can be irregular rhythm. That means, what is the regular rhythm then? The regular rhythm is the sinus rhythm. So, whenever there is irregular rhythm, whenever there is abnormality in the rate, and whenever there is abnormality in conduction, the pathway, remember we said SA node say AV node say bundle of His, then Purkinje fiber. This is the route, normal route. Or when this conduction route is maintained, only then regular systole and diastole is maintained. Normal ejection is maintained. See, what is the main purpose of this conduction? ताकि एट्रियम में impulse फैले, and then the atrium undergoes contraction and systole. Then the impulse reaches to the ventricle through the AV node bundle, and then when the impulse reaches there, then there will be muscle contraction in the ventricle, and due to this muscle contraction there will be systole. As a result of the systole, there will be ejection of blood into the systemic circulation. So this is the whole purpose. When there is arrhythmia, when there is irregular rhythm, abnormal rate, or any obstruction, any abnormality in the, not only there is obstruction, there can be abnormal pathways also. So rather, instead of saying obstruction in conduction, we should say abnormality in the conduction. So what happens is, this normal conductance or this normal conduction of impulse does not take place. As a result, the ejection of blood or the movement of blood from the atrium to the ventricle and to the systemic circulation, this suffers. So what can be the causes of arrhythmia? First, that the generation of action potential which takes place in the pacemakers can be affected. That is, changes in the automaticity. What is automaticity? Automaticity means there is automatic generation of action potential, spontaneous depolarization. Remember phase 0, phase 4 के बाद जैसे ही phase 0 start होता है, that is where there is spontaneous depolarization. So whenever there is changes in this automaticity, then there can be arrhythmia. If there are ectopic focus, then they can be abnormal action potentials. Say a person suffers from an MI. Okay, we have discussed MI when we discussed drugs causing ischemia, drugs for ischemic heart disease. So, say a person has suffered from myocardial infarction, and there is an infarct in the myocardium. There is an infarct. What is an infarct? Yes, anyone can tell me?
Dead necrosed tissue.
Yes. Now you should remember that such tissue, such infarcts, they are places where spontaneous depolarization can take place. And then अगर वहाँ spontaneous depolarization हो जाता है, then from there the impulse will be transmitted in the adjoining tissues to the adjoining tissues. That means that infarct becomes an ectopic pacemaker. Are you understanding? So sinoatrial rhythm तो चल रहा है, पर साथ साथ that infarct, that ischemic tissue undergoes spontaneous depolarization and acts as ectopic focus for generation of action potential. So this is a reason of arrhythmia. Obviously there will be conduction abnormalities. There can be re-entry tachycardias we'll be discussing. There can be some blockage in the conduction pathways. This conduction pathway, that is atrium से ventricle आएगा, फिर AV node से it will enter into the bundle of His, and then Purkinje fibers spreading all over the ventricle. So if there is any blockage, any non-conducting tissue in between, then there will be arrhythmias. There can be abnormal conduction pathways. Not only is there always blockage in conduction, there can be extra conduction because of some shortcut conduction pathways. For example, in the there is a condition Wolff Parkinson White syndrome. Uh, Maybe you have heard about this in physiology. Yes, you have heard of this
Yes,
syndrome.
ma'am.
Yes. So can you tell me what is the speciality in this syndrome? What happens?
मैम, इसके अंदर एक एबनॉर्मल कंडक्शन चैनल बन जाता है एट्रियो टू वेंट्रिकल, जिसको हम कहते हैं बंडल ऑफ कैंट। इसके कारण मैम क्या होता है, पीआर इंटरवल शॉर्टन हो जाता है, और मैम
Yes.
इरिथमिया के कारण वो जो रेवर्बरेटरी सर्किट्स बनते हैं उनकी प्रोबेबिलिटी काफी हाई रहती है।
Yes, yes. So again, that is a region. That is a reason for arrhythmias to occur. जो हमारा normal conduction होता था SA node से AV node, जो कि एक time gap के साथ होता था. So when there is an abnormal conduction, the bundle of His, so obviously there will be conduction pathway and conduction abnormalities. Then, since we discussed that this conduction is an interplay of three Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sorry, there was some connectivity issue suddenly. I'll share the screen again. Is the screen visible? Is the screen visible? No?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Oh, let me see. Now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So before the connection goes again, let me just give you uh, a brief idea about the drugs. We have discussed now the reason, the pathology of arrhythmias, what can be the uh, reasons for arrhythmias to take place, and what is the normal conduction, what are the different phases through which a normal sinus rhythm occurs. So this picture just gives you an idea how there can be a, see, this is a normal conduction taking place through this pathway 1 and then this pathway 2, and then when the conduction through pathway 1 is moving like this, the some this tissue is being innervated by the impulse from 1 as well as the impulse from 2. So this is a normal pathway. But what happens when there is a blockage in the pathway, in the second pathway, pathway number 2? So this impulse is blocked in this region and is not able to travel further. What happens is the impulse comes down the pathway 1, it goes through this region and then enters through pathway to the pathway 2 in the opposite direction. So if you think about the tissue here in the pathway 2, there will be lot of disturbances. There will be lot of disturbance in the rhythm here. So see the re-entry mechanism, this is called the re-entry mechanism. So instead of this kind of a graph, which I explained in a normal conducting system, the graph will become like this, because it is not able to come to the phase 4 again. In the resting membrane, it is not able to come because of this phase 3 and re-entry again in the opposite direction. The graph becomes like this. Now coming to the rationale for the use of antiarrhythmic drugs. Why do we need? We need to restore the normal rhythm, rate and conduction, because arrhythmias can be very fatal. So sometimes we need to alter the conduction velocity to maintain the sinus rhythm. If the conduction velocity is, say, reduced, if the velocity is if the velocity is increased, that the impulses pass from the atrium to the ventricle at a very high note, then we need to slow down the conduction. Okay, if the velocity is decreased, that means there is problem in the conduction pathway, there is some kind of a blockage. So we need to give drugs which will increase the velocity. Okay, so we may need to alter the slope 0, that is the depolarization. We can need to alter the refractoriness. Like I said, refractory period is when the tissue is not excitable because of the impulses in the adjoining tissue. So we need to sometimes increase the refractoriness. Then we may need to alter the excitability of the cardiac cells by changing the duration of the effective refractory period. Okay. The effective refractory period increase, it will interrupt, it causes interruption tachycardias, which is caused by the re-entry mechanism. So it causes interruption in that. We have to keep in mind that there can be dangerous consequences for arrhythmia, and one of them is Torsades de Pointes. I will not explain Torsades de Pointes, you all know. Then anti-arrhythmic drugs, they help to suppress the activity of the ectopic pacemakers, abnormal automaticity. That is abnormal automaticity when, due to periods of ischemia, due to formation of some infarct, there occurs abnormal depolarization in the ischemic tissues. Because hypoxia is the reason for spontaneous depolarization. So by giving anti-arrhythmic drugs, we can suppress that. Okay. Now, this is just a recapitulation of the re-entry mechanism, but due to shortage of time, I'll skip this and I'll come directly to the drugs. So this is the classification of anti-arrhythmic drugs. So if you classify, so this is a very brief classification, Vaughan Williams classification, wherein the anti-arrhythmic drugs, they are classified into 4 groups. Class 1 is the class 1s are called membrane stabilizing agents, and this class 1 is divided into 3 subclasses, A, B and C. Now what I am showing in this PowerPoint is a very, very simplified form, but you have to understand these membrane stabilizers are actually sodium channel blockers. So sodium channel is mainly which phase? Predominantly sodium channel movement takes place in, sodium ion movement takes place in which phase? Yes, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 0. Yes. So that means these membrane stabilizers, they will mainly act on phase 0. And the difference in the type A, type B and type C membrane stabilizers is that A decreases moderately the conduction, the dV by dt जो slope होता है, it moderately decreases the slope. Phase B, there is little decrease in the slope, dV by dt. And phase C, it causes marked decrease. So this group C is very important nowadays because it causes marked decrease in the slope. So you should remember at least 1 or 2 drugs in each group, because anti-arrhythmic drugs, they can be asked as an LQ. Like the question can be like this: classify anti-arrhythmic drugs and write the mechanism of action, uses, side effects of any drug we can give. ये 4 जो ग्रुप्स हैं, इनमें से कोई भी हम एक ड्रग उठा देंगे और कहेंगे कि राइट द मैकेनिज्म ऑफ एक्शन, यूजेस, कॉन्ट्राइंडिकेशन, साइड इफेक्ट्स ऑफ डैश any one drug. So the marks can be 2 + 2 + 2 + 2 like that. So anti-arrhythmic drugs can be given as long question also, and these individual drugs can be given as short notes. And if there are any therapeutic status questions, that also I'll tell you. So phase 1, the class 1A includes drugs like quinidine, procainamide, disopyramide. The class 1 type B includes drugs like lignocaine, phenytoin. So say lignocaine is actually an local anesthetic. Okay, so lignocaine local anesthetic में उसका mechanism of action क्या है? Anyone? That has been covered in your previous lecture.
Sodium channels.
Yes. So see that property is being used here also. जो local anesthetic में वो sodium channels block करके जो anesthesia कर रहा था, that same property is being used in the cardiac cells also in taking care of the arrhythmia, in regularizing the movement of the sodium channels. blockage of the sodium channels in the activated or inactivated state. And the type 3, class 1 type 3, that is propafenone and flecainide. That is, so you have to remember these names. The class 2 includes beta blockers. Beta blockers we have discussed in details in the previous lectures, but you have to remember beta blocker is also a very important antiarrhythmic drug. There is a different class altogether, and this includes the cardioselective ones like metoprolol, esmolol. Esmolol's claim to fame is, what is so special about esmolol? Anyone of you can say?
Ma'am, it's the shortest acting.
Yes, it is shortest. It is very fast and short acting. So beta blockers like esmolol, they have a role in cardiac arrhythmias. Then class 3 is the potassium channel blockers, and this includes amiodarone and the newer congener dronedarone. Class 4 is the calcium channel blockers like verapamil. And there are certain miscellaneous drugs like digoxin. Digoxin, remember, we have discussed with heart failure, because digoxin, the main action of digoxin is blockage of the sodium potassium pump. So it also affects the movement of the sodium channel, potassium channel and calcium channel. So it also has a role in arrhythmia, though it itself has an arrhythmogenic potential. Similarly, adenosine, atropine, magnesium sulfates, they all have a role in arrhythmias. I'll just quickly brush through. Class 1A agents, class 1A, remember, quinidine and procainamide, disopyramide. So they block the sodium channels in the activated stage. So what will they do? They will be affecting, like you all just told me, the phase 0 depolarization को करेगा, वो slope को decrease कर देगा. Okay, when you're plotting it against time, the dV by dt, the rate of increase of conduction by dt, that will be decreased. So the QRS duration when we plot the ECG will be increased. Okay. Then class 1B. Class 1B blocks the sodium channels in the inactivated state. It will also be affecting the phase 0, and it slows down the upstroke. The zero phase ka jo upstroke hai, the steep rise, that is slowed down. So the slope decreases. And it also shortens the phase 3 repolarization. So it will alter the action potential difference as well as the effective refractory period. And if we plot this ratio, the ratio of the ERP, that is effective refractory period by action potential difference, that is increased. Okay. So class 1B की खास बात ये है कि it has a greater affinity for ischemic tissue, because ischemic tissue, ischemic, when a post ischemia, post infarction, there is always chance of arrhythmia, because ischemic tissues can cause spontaneous depolarization. Now class 1B agents, they have a greater affinity of such ischemic tissues because there are more inactivated channels there. So it is very much effective. So lignocaine, whenever you are asked a short note of lignocaine, remember you have to write about local anesthesia. Okay, but non-anesthetic use of lignocaine is cardiac arrhythmias because it belongs to the class 1B. Similarly, phenytoin is an anti-epileptic drug. You will be beginning with the central nervous system very soon. So phenytoin is one of the prototype drugs in central nervous system in epilepsy, and it also blocks the sodium channels. So that is why it is effective in epilepsy. But that same property is being used in the heart muscles also in treatment of arrhythmia. Then class 1C. This includes flecainide and propafenone. So they are the most potent sodium channel blockers in this class 1C. Okay, it will depress the myocardium, and like all class 1 agents, it will slow this phase 0. The slope of phase 0 will be decreased, but it does not have much effect on the action potential duration, or it does not affect the QRS complex. So it is very, very useful in atrial fibrillation and flutter. Now coming to the next group, that is the class 2 beta blockers. Beta blockers, mainly the cardioselective ones, will block the beta 1 receptors in the heart. They decrease the sympathetic activity by and they also depress the phase 4 depolarization of the pacemaker cells. So see, phase 4, if it is depressed, then the next phase following phase 4 is phase 0. So that is not able to take place. So by decreasing the sympathetic activity, it is depressing the phase 4. So it causes increase in the action potential duration, and it decreases the conduction velocity, and it inhibits the aberrant pacemaker activity. These all actions are taking place because of its ability to decrease the sympathetic activity, because it is obviously an adrenergic blocker. So propranolol, is a non-selective beta blocker which acts on beta 1 as well as beta 2 receptors, and it has a role in paroxysmal supraventricular PSVT, paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardias. It is not the drug of choice, because the drug of choice is adenosine. But propranolol should not be given in asthma, congestive cardiac failure, and along with calcium channel blockers. It should not be given. Now coming to class 3. Class 3 is very, very important. ये बहुत बार short notes में पूछा जाता है. The drug here is amiodarone, dronedarone. Okay. So they are anti-fibrillatory agent. They are the calcium channel blockers. Calcium channel block करने से क्या होगा? They prolong the repolarization phase. Repolarization phase कौन सा वाला phase होता है 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 में? Yes?
Phase 3.
Phase 3, yes. So that phase is prolonged. So amiodarone, if it is asked as a short note, you have to write about its class. Its action is blockage of sodium channels, and amiodarone has many side effects. तो amiodarone का एक side effects का एक लंबा list है जो आपको याद होना चाहिए. And in this class 3, there is also sotalol. Remember, sotalol is a beta blocker. So it belongs to class 2. But since it has this property of blocking the potassium channel, it also belongs to class 3. ठीक है? और amiodarone, though it is actually class 3, it also has membrane stabilizing property by blocking the sodium channels. It also has the properties of beta blockers. तो amiodarone को अगर आप class पूछे, which class? So it belongs to class 3, but it also has properties of class 1 and class 2. So you can say amiodarone belongs to 1, 2 and 3 classes. 1 में से 1A, 2 and 3. So these are generally tricky questions for MCQs. You are asked amiodarone is an antiarrhythmic drug belonging to class 1, 2, 3 or none, like that. So you, or 1, 2, 3, all of the above. So the answer should be all of the above, because it belongs to all the 3 classes. So you should remember this. So amiodarone के हैं काफी सारे side effects. So main is nausea. Apart from nausea, vomiting, it causes photosensitization. एम्योडुरान को थोड़ा सा आप लोगों को ना डिटेल में पढ़ना पड़ेगा. It can cause photosensitivity reaction like a sunburn. It can cause corneal microdeposits because and this occurs only if it is used for a very long time. But this is reversible, thankfully. क्या होता है कि it causes a dazzling effect like headlight dazzling. It can cause pulmonary alveolitis and fibrosis. It is a very serious toxicity. It can cause peripheral neuropathy, and amiodarone can interfere with the thyroid functions. अब thyroid का function को it interferes, and it can cause hypothyroidism also. It can cause hyperthyroidism also. So this is again a tricky question. We ask, how does it affect the thyroid? Does it cause hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism? You have to answer both, because you know it is an iodinated derivative. It is an iodine derivative. So that is why it interferes with the function of the thyroid gland. This side effect is you can say compensated by the newer drug dronadarone. It is a non-iodinated congener. It is less toxic, but it is less effective. Amiodarone is very, very effective, but it is less effective class 3 drug. So amiodarone is a very important short note, and if you are writing of amiodarone, you should remember the newer one, dronadarone. It has lesser side effects, no thyroid dysfunction, but it has liver toxicity, and it should not be used in heart failure. It has been found that it can cause atrial flutter, which is again a dangerous condition. So amiodarone can be used in most tachyarrhythmias. It can be used even if left ventricular ejection is compromised. It helps to convert to sinus rhythm, and in case of cardiac arrest, IV 300 milligram IV dose is given. For ventricular tachycardias, 150 milligram IV repeat for over 10 minutes infusion can be given. So amiodarone is a very, very important drug, and you have to memorize these side effects. Coming to the last group, that is class 4. Now class 4 consists of calcium channel blockers. So class 1 was about sodium channel, class 2 was beta blocker, class 3 was potassium channel, or class 4 है calcium channels. So like I said, cardiac rhythm, it is an interplay of 3 ions. Sodium हमने देख लिया, potassium भी देख लिया, and now calcium. So calcium channel blockers, which block the L type of calcium channels, they are important antiarrhythmic drugs. They decrease the firing rate at the pacemaker sites. Obviously, for depolarization to take place, there has to be calcium ions. So they will decrease the decrease the firing rate at the pacemaker sites. So the phase 4, in this case, you see the phase 4 depolarization in the pacemakers, mainly the SA node and the Purkinje fibers, that is reduced. So the conduction velocity will be decreased. The repolarization, that is the phase 3, will also be prolonged, and it is very active at that AV node, the AV node junction. So I will not go into the detail of explaining the calcium channel blockers, because we have discussed about these channels when we discussed about angina. So the drugs are verapamil. They are useful in terminating paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardias. They help to control the rate in atrial fibrillation or atrial flutter. What is the condition in atrial fibrillation and flutter? The atrial rate is very high compared to the ventricular rate. So one has to, like, if say one has to control the atrial rate, which is in the range of 200 to 300. Normal heart rate कितना होता है? 70, 60 to 100. But in atrial fibrillation and flutter, it is more than 200. So if all these 200 impulses per minute reach the ventricle, what will happen? It can be very fatal. So we have to control the rate in atrial fibrillation so that all the impulses from the atrium does not reach the ventricle. So that is why these drugs are given. Now coming to the miscellaneous drugs like adenosine, digoxin. Digoxin, you know, we have discussed with heart failure how it causes blockage of the sodium potassium pump, as a result of which there is finally accumulation of calcium in the cytoplasm, causing loading of calcium ions in the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So that was digoxin. But there is another drug, adenosine, which has a very important role in cardiac arrhythmias. It acts on the adenosine receptors, and adenosine, you have to remember that it is very, very short acting, ultra short acting. It is a purine. It is a purine nucleoside. So it activates the acetylcholine sensitive potassium channels to accentuate the inward rectifier potassium current, and thus it causes membrane hyperpolarization. Since it is acting on the potassium channels, causing the opening, so the net result is hyperpolarization. Okay, it acts through, adenosine acts through the A1 type of adenosine, which is an adenosine receptor, which is a G protein coupled receptors in the SA node fibers. It also acts on the AV node fibers, and thus it can cause the prolongation of the effective refractory period. So you know, adenosine is the first drug of choice in PSVT, paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia. Obviously, the first step in management is not giving adenosine, it is vagal massage in the vagal area, followed by adenosine. So it interrupts the re-entry and the aberrant pathways through the AV node. So sometimes it can be used at the diagnosis and the treatment of PSVT also. It should not be used if the patient is having hypotension, if a patient is having high degree of atrioventricular block, or if there is a drug-induced tachycardia. And the dangerous side effect, this adenosine, it has certain side effects also, because it can cause transient dyspnea, चेस्ट पेन, हाइपोटेंशन. तो इसीलिए अगर हाइपोटेंशन पहले से ही है तो यू विल नॉट गिव एडेनोसिन, बिकॉज एडेनोसिन की वजह से देयर इज हाइपोटेंशन एंड फ्लशिंग. एंड इन asthmatics one has to be more cautious because it can precipitate bronchospasm. So PSVT के बारे में अगर आपसे पूछा जाए, paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia, तो first step is carotid massage. In the carotid area there is a massage which stimulates the vagus, and many a times the patient recovers in this step only. The second step is that of injection adenosine, flush in 200 ml of normal saline. That is, adenosine is charged into 20 ml of normal saline, and since it is ultra short acting, the effect is seen within few seconds. The side effects of adenosine, like I just said, it can cause transient dyspnea, pain, chest pain, fall in BP. There can be chances of asystole, ventricular ectopics. I will not explain digoxin again. I hope you will remember. So you have to remember the take-home message that anti-arrhythmic drugs are also pro-arrhythmics. ठीक है? They themselves have arrhythmogenic potential because they are altering the movement of the sodium, potassium, and calcium channel. So they have themselves the capacity of causing arrhythmias. So a few miscellaneous drugs like adenosine. Adenosine is now often asked as a short note. Ivabradine is another drug which selectively blocks the funny currents and it also slows the pacemaker activity by decreasing the depolarization in the sinoatrial node. Then ranolazine we had discussed with ischemic diseases that it is originally an anti-anginal drug, but it has been found to block the sodium currents, the early as well as the late components. So, and it also delays the rectifier potassium current. So the net effect is that of prolongation of the action potential and the QT interval. So it is in the process of research, and this is also a potential antiarrhythmic drug. Now, what if the drugs are ineffective? Pharmacology mein we will study drugs, but sometimes if the patient is not responding that much with the help of drugs, then we can consider radiofrequency catheter ablation, cryoablation. We can consider implantation of a defibrillator to treat potentially fatal arrhythmias. So that is all about antiarrhythmic drugs. So what you need to study is understand the physiology of antiarrhythmic drugs, the physiology. Then you understand the classification. If you understand the different phases and what is arrhythmia and what we intend to achieve after prescribing antiarrhythmic drugs, then you have to understand about the classification of drugs, class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, and what is the characteristic of each, what is the mechanism in each class. Try to memorize at least 2 names in each class, because in Viva we ask, can you name any drug from class 1? So if you answer say lignocaine, then we will ask you which class, class 1A, 1B, 1C. Then we ask a few more questions related to that drugs. That is, and it is also important for short notes also. Individual drugs can be asked. ठीक है, इसमें explain why question उतना नहीं होता है. At the most we can ask you about amiodarone. Short note generally amiodarone के ऊपर बहुत पूछते हैं हम लोग. Lignocaine में भी short notes आते हैं. Lignocaine में, but you have to write not only about antiarrhythmic action, you have to also write about the local anesthetic action. So when you study local anesthetics, lignocaine, you just refer to antiarrhythmics also, or vice versa. So now I'll take the attendance. Yes, let me check whether